Hello, everyone. Welcome to AWS She-Builds Tech Skills. I'm your host, Jigna Gandhi. You might have seen me in the previous episodes as well. As you may know, each month we are diving into, the what is the latest in the technology and the industry trends, and we try to spotlight all the innovations that are happening, sharing the fresh insights, highlighting some of really cool tools that are designed for builders and leaders in mind. And if you remember, a few months ago, we had a pleasure of speaking with our experts on mainframe modernization. If you have missed that episode, make sure to watch it. I'm going to post the link right just now. And today we decided to, touch base again on that topic and dive little further and share, what's the latest happening in that area and how you can take advantage of it. But before we do that, I would like to welcome Cheryl and Chiranjeev on the show. Thank you so much for joining us. Can we have a quick round of introduction before we dig into the topic? Maybe Cheryl will start with you.
Sure, thank you. Cheryl, I'm the Worldwide Senior Solutions Architect for AWS, focused on mainframe modernization and how we can accelerate with generative AI. My previous experience is working with a lot of financial customers in the space and helping modernize mainframes and how do we improve this process? So super excited in my current role, lots of changes happening, and it's always fun to help learn and grow.
Hey,
Awesome. Chiranjeev?
yeah, thanks, Jigna. Thanks, Cheryl. Hi, I am Chiranjeev. I am a specialist solution architect for mainframe modernization, helping all our global financial services customers move their workloads from mainframe to AWS. Happy to be here and share my insights into what I'm seeing into the financial services industry. Stay tuned to know more.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So maybe Cheryl, I'll start with you. And I know we had you on the show last time as well, but I'm really curious to know, like what's new is coming in this space because I know it's been quite a few months since we last chatted. Um, can you start with something new that's coming up in this area?
I sure can. We had some great features coming up. So let me share with you all a presentation. So one of the most exciting pieces, and I think what's really changing and making extensive use of generative AI is something we call business rules extraction. And we'll go deeper into what that is. AWS Transform itself is an end-to-end solution, takes you through various phases of the mainframe modernization journey, from your assessment through some documentation, wave planning, and then you really have a choice on how you modernize. Automated refactor is one way, automated COBOL to Java solution with functional equivalence, but reimagine is a different way. And that's the area we're going to focus on today and go deeper into. And obviously, deploy, operate, and run within AWS. So, what do I mean by reimagine? If you look here on the left, you have the mainframe as it exists today. Everything is encompassed on the mainframe, from the business functions to the code to the databases, the operating system, and the hardware. And when you reimagine, it looks everything from the ground up looks totally different. You could change your business functions. You will obviously be changing your code, but you might change how you put things together. You might take a batch process, turn it into event driven. You might take some extract, transform, load programs, change them into glue, and start to move towards modern AWS services. You might do some screen modernization. So that's really what we mean by reimagine. Totally different, rework the business. And I think that's key and critical with mainframe modernization. Depending on the goals and objectives of the company, the business wants something out of the transformation too. So excited that we are offering services in this area. So what that looks like, the new feature we introduced May of this year was something we call application business rules. And what that really does is, instead of looking individually at a program, you can start to look at that application and what it does. So in this case, we have an insurance system. You might have a policy admin system. That breaks down into several different areas and functions. The new business, premium processing, that comes down further into a work stream. How do you recalculate those premiums? How do you receive those premiums? Ending up at the individual programs. Because really, when you start to reimagine, you start to reimagine a piece of the business. So that's the tools we're starting to offer within AWS Transform, is that application view. And here's a view of what that looks like. At the top level up here, you can see this was my workload I was looking at, so my premiums in this case, or as I was explaining. And you can start to see the different levels coming down. As you move down the different levels, what becomes important is your entry point. Where does that transaction start? Is it a batch job? Is it a JCL? Is it a CICS transaction? And you can see, even for just one CICS transaction, you've usually got to process a whole lot of systems upstream to be able to get to that one transaction. So this is what helps break that down. And we provide information at each of these different levels. So business logic, this is really what I'm showing here is an individual program then. What does that individual program do? What data sources does it access? How complex is it? What statements does it have? And really, our goal for the business rules is to get it in a business form for the business users to understand too. It's their systems that we develop for. So really trying to provide the view, make it as easy as possible for everything. So it's not locked in the head of one developer on how this works together. So this is a series of agents working together, providing some visual insights of what the applications do. You can explore them online within the system, within the web application. We also export them, and we export them in both HTML and JSON format. HTML, easy to read, everybody can look at it, but JSON format, further processing. This is not the end of the journey, this is the beginning of the journey. But every journey on Reimagine starts with a deep, deep understanding of what those business rules are. That takes a lot of engineering, a lot of prompt refinement to get that information. These programs are complex, they've been around a long time. So what I'm going to do now, great to see the PowerPoint, but I'm going to switch to a live demo so you can see what that looks like. So not live as in I'm running it live. It is fast, but it's not quite fast enough to do in an hour show. So this was pre-built, and you can see here there's 4 different levels I spoke about. And we're going to start at the top one. In my case, I just called it application. This is a credit card system. This is a sample AWS card demo. If you're not familiar with it, it's a complete credit card system, has both batch and online. So it gives me an example of what the system does, and then it starts to define my functional groups for me. So the only thing this was produced from was the code. So gave it the code, it worked out the different areas of the business. If you move on from this level, we get to our next level, and you can see there's card management, account management. The one I like to look at is transaction processing. A lot of the mainframes are doing transaction processing. So we're going to review the results at this level. And you can start to see, so what are the key capabilities? Oh, you can view and search transaction history. No surprise there to anyone who's worked on mainframe, I'm sure. You can add new transactions. You can process and post transactions to accounts and maintain your transaction file. So although this is a small system, it is a complete system. I appreciate the complexity of all of our mainframe customers. But yeah, but this is what we have to be able to demo to you. Within the transaction processing, you can then start to look at how I have some batch jobs. I have some online transactions. That was the entry points I spoke about. Where do they begin? So I'm going to start with the online. And you can see here the different entry points, different end results for the customer. So I'm going to pick on this one. And to get to this program, which is the transaction display, you had to go through your menu program, you had to sign on, you had to go through various levels within your system. So important to understand what they are to get to where you need to get to. So this view allows you to enter new transactions into the system. It's got some validations. It interacts with these vSAM files. If there was databases, it would tell you that too. It would tell you if there's any MQ integrations, and it runs in CICS. I'm going to shrink it just a little bit. Here then is the flow of how those programs interact together. So you can see it goes from one to the next, has a date routine program. Anyone who's worked on the mainframe, I'm sure, has seen many date routine programs. Got a lot of interest in Y2K. A lot of work done then too in Y2K, but explains the flow and process of how they interact together. If we keep moving down, we can see the screen flow of each of the different screens that are involved in that workflow. So we're going to scroll through those. That's the main sign-on screen. That's the account screen. And then we get to the transaction screen that we need, where we can enter a new transaction. Keep going down, we can find out a little bit more about our data sources. So as I said, this is available both in the HTML file, but also JSON format for further processing within your systems. After that level, we get down to the individual program level. We're going to pick on this one. At the program level, you start to see some of the environment details again. You see the key functionality for this particular program. You see how complex it is, what statements it has, which rules it has. Again, on the data source, showing you again what that map looks like. But now we start to get into what are the individual fields on the map. What are the fields and what do they do? And also important, how do we interact with those? If there's a function key, what does it do? Does it save? Does it enter? Does it exit? What are the validations that it does? So we're going to keep scrolling down. And when we get here, we start to see what's the high level flow. And I'm going to zoom out a little bit. So if you look, and I appreciate that's tiny for everybody on the call, but we can start with the transaction entry. Once we've done some initialization, we check if their card or account number was entered. So this is the highest level flow of this program. We can keep going down the flow as you work through that program, the flow and what it does. Here's the most important part of what comes out. The rest is great, but what is important is we understand what that mainframe does and understand the business rules. So here we go through each and every rule from the program and what it does. Oh, we need a date. Oh, we have to format the date. I appreciate that's a lot easier in many different languages and modern languages, but in the mainframe, there's often a lot of rules and processing around date processing. So yes, so we keep going down. Like I say, we can keep going down to every level. Here's a transaction ID where it generates a new number, sets the maximum value, starts looking, does some read previous. Along with the business rule, it will tell you where in the code it found that rule. That's very important to us too for traceability. We have this for online, the batch. If you look at a JCL, so post transactions, this is my JCL that posts the transactions to the ledger and updates balances. Very similar. We'll provide the rules from JCL plus programs. There are a lot of rules tied up in I'm going to skip that was a JCL level. I'm going to skip the program. It's similar to what you saw. But JCL is key and important. A lot of business rules are in JCL. We have a lot of utilities that do a lot of great things on the mainframe. That's captured within the JCL rules because, yeah, simpler, faster, they are used a lot on the mainframe. There's a wealth of great rules from SORT to IDCAMs to uh, keep going down. Yeah, there's a long list on the mainframe. So that's why we captured the business rules from JCL too. So I know that's a lot, but we go down in levels to come back up again to understand really how that function operates. We have to have the detail to be able to replicate how it stands. And with that, I think I will hand it over. Thank you.
We have one really interesting question. How much time it
Sure.
took you to prepare this demo?
This demo. So I think the question is, how long does it take me to run this code base? This code base
Yeah.
is around 40,000, 50,000 lines of code. It was hours. I ran this in hours. Yeah. So
Okay.
obviously, the larger your code base, it is using Gen AI, but we can get through code very, very quickly. The demo was pretty quick because I demoed this a lot, but yeah, I think that's the question you're really asking, how long it takes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay.
Yeah. So
Awesome. Thank you so
hours.
much.
Yeah.
Awesome. Chiranjeev, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Igna. And just wanted to let the audience know that any financial services customers that I talk to, right, mostly the major ones across the globe, they are involved in some or the other mainframe modernization or migration, workload migration projects and stuffs are going on. Yeah, it's pretty much in the industry, and customers are looking forward to different kind of solutions that are available to move their mainframe workloads to AWS. Now, there are multiple challenges and reasons why they are doing it. They would like to gain agility in their business processes. They do have they are facing a lot of SME knowledge gap, that is retiring workforce, and so they would like to mitigate that risk. I'm sure many of the college pass outs are not learning COBOL anymore. So that's one critical challenge which financial services customers are trying to mitigate. Um, and the third one is as the mainframe applications has been developed over the years, they were phenomenal. They have served the purpose. They have served the financial services industry and is continuing to serve it. Amazing machines, right? But they have been developed, they have been developed as a big monolith most of the time. So a lot of business processes are tied together. So that's where customers are looking forward to new solutions which can help them decouple those applications. Um, as a part of my session today, what I'll do is I'll share some of the insights that I'm seeing into financial services industry and how they are migrating their workloads. Let me share my screen.
It's coming up.
Do you see my slide or do you see my?
You might just want to turn on the slideshow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we see it.
Yep. Thank you, Gina. So what you see in the slide is different patterns that financial services industry across insurance, banking are implementing to migrate their workloads. And not every workload belongs to every other pattern, right? So it's not that one particular customer is going for only one single pattern. Most of the time, they are, uh, you know, there is a particular pattern which is suited for a particular workload. Now, I'll just take a quick, 5 minutes into what are the different patterns that we are talking about here. The one in the middle, which you see, is the mainframe. Uh, you know, is the mainframe block where you have business functions, application code, which would be mostly in COBOL or CICS, JCL, and at times you can have languages like natural, AWS, so on and so forth. So, and then there is the database layer, followed by the operating system and the mainframe layer. So that's what you see in blue is all mainframe. Then there are three different patterns on the right-hand side, which is mostly, when customers are more strategic about application modernization, that's where they would choose one of the three patterns. The one which stays in blue is something, in replatform, the first pattern that you see is that they do not change. So essentially, what do not change is business functions and application code once you replatform. And what does that mean is if you have five jobs doing a particular report or doing a particular transaction, you'll continue to have those five jobs in AWS to do the same business functions. And your application code, which was written in COBOL or GCL or other languages in mainframe, would continue to be COBOL and GCL in AWS. So those are the two things which essentially remains the same: business functions and application code. What changes beneath is your operating system, your databases, your runtimes, all of that change, and that's what we call as replatform pattern. Essentially, many of our insurance customers are taking this path because there are workloads which would maybe go for either a closed book business or they might it's not they might not be there for longer period of time, so they would like to keep it in COBOL. Among all the patterns, we have seen replatform taking the least amount of time to get out of mainframe. The next pattern in what you see is refactor or mass conversion, where your technology stack changes. What does that mean is, while of course, your from the bottom, your operating system, your hardware changes, your database changes. What additionally changes is your application code. So if you had COBOL, it would be converted to an object-oriented Java, and your database maybe was in vSAM or DB2 in mainframe would be moved to either any of the relational databases available in AWS. Postgres can be one of them. Now, what essentially still remains the same in refactor pattern is your business functions. So again, if you had three screens to do a particular business function in mainframe, your business functions in AWS is also going to remain the same. The first two pattern is what we call as fast exit, that is replatform and refactor, because they are the quickest ones to which would help you get out of mainframe. Then the last pattern is reimagine pattern, and I think Cheryl touched on it during her presentation. Essentially, all of the layers changes when you migrate from mainframe to AWS in this pattern, whether it's the hardware, your operating system, your application code, and even your business functions. Example, if you were processing and taking a cue from what Cheryl presented in during a presentation for a policy admin application. So if you in mainframe, if your premiums were processed during the night in a batch cycle while you entered the transaction in the morning, you reimagine that business process such that your premiums are processed as soon as they hit the system. So it's more real time. So that's one kind of reimagining your business processes, or and making it more event driven. So the reimagining the business processes is going to be more impactful, more long term vision, and it's going to, of course, take more time to implement. But uh, what I'm seeing in the in financial services industry, within the financial
Mhm.
services industry, many of our banking customers are moving towards reimagining their mainframe applications. But they do not do it in silo, just about reimagining the application. They would combine the augmentation pattern, which you see on the left-hand side, which is uh, the two of the things which are highlighted in the screen. The augmentation pattern is where you would be moving your data from mainframe to AWS. That way, you build data gravity in AWS such that your new applications that you build will continue to evolve in AWS rather than evolving in mainframe, as well as you'll reimagine your existing business applications. Um, One of the pattern that I'll take you through a couple of patterns, and I'll also demonstrate through the slides itself as to how you can accelerate the reimagining part of your business processes. So what you see in the screen currently is a typical mainframe applications that is on premises. Your presentation layer is mostly going to be in your mobile or your desktop or your point of sale systems, which would connect to mainframe using one of the middlewares like CICS Transaction Gateway or IMS Connect or Store Procedures or MQ. So that's the first layer. And then you'll have mainframe modules, which would actually read from the middleware and update the system of record. And then you'll have core processing batch jobs, reports, which would run off your system of record such that, they generate different insights into your processing. So that's a typical mainframe application. Uh, the pattern that we are seeing very closely being used is CQRS pattern. What does that mean is command query responsibility separation. So your your presentation layer, which is mobile desktop users, still remain as is, and you have an option to move them to AWS while you continue to interact with mainframe through the middleware, and your system of record is still on mainframe. What customers are doing is they are separating the business processes, which are for read only and which are for write to the database, that is commands. Once you are able to separate those business processes, you can replicate the data that you have on mainframe to a database on AWS with in a real-time manner using any of the change data capture technologies. And your read-only transactions at that point can be redirected instead of coming to mainframe, like they can be directed to AWS. And you can have reimagine your basically read-only transactions using Amazon Transform and Kiro and deploy them on AWS. So that's the phase one is what is being implemented. In phase two, you would be, the customers are moving towards moving their command part of their application to AWS. What what this brings in, the benefit that it brings in is, mainframe applications are very tightly coupled. So if you bring one application out, there are other applications which are dependent either on the data or the application modules. So it's very difficult to separate them. So what essentially you are doing is you're taking the whole application, understanding what your read transactions and business functions are, reimagining those read business functions and directing them to AWS. And then you bring in the commands. That way, your interaction or the coupling that you already have on mainframe is somehow decoupled in this whole process. So that's pattern one, which I'm seeing in the industry to customers are using to migrate their mainframe application. I'll take you through a slide which shows a couple of tools which can help you accelerate this process. So you continue to have your COBOL code and DW schema, which is legacy application code on mainframe. Uh, with Amazon Transform, you can actually generate the business rules, which you just Cheryl demoed some time back. So Amazon Transform would help you do the code analysis and then help you generate business rules out of the code application code that you have. Using that business logic, what you can do is you can use Kiro, which is more spec-driven development. You can input those business logic and the database structure from Amazon Transform analysis results to Kiro. Give it a prompt like, you are a software engineer. I would like you to develop specs from what the business logic that has been extracted from Amazon Transform. So there are prompts which you can write for Kiro. Once you write the prompts and let Kiro run through the business logic and the database structure, it would help you in coming up with the specifications for your target application. Now, you can look at those specifications. That's where there is a human in the loop. You can look at those specifications for accuracy. And also, if you would like to change any of it, you can make those changes in that in the generated specifications. And then again, you can fit the specifications to Kiro. So, of course, you might have to go through different iterations as you go through this process, but it's going to accelerate your journey. Once you input the specifications to Kiro and you give a prompt like, what I would like to generate a reimagined application in Java, .NET, or Python, it's going to generate the application for you with, and you can even go for, to a point where it can help you generate the infrastructure as code and help you deploy this application. So that's one part of the development. And the other part is where you can feed in the spec and ask Kiro to create more modernized database and layouts and data structures for you. So in this whole process, which was till now, was being done manually to extract the database layer from mainframe, create a new modernized layer in AWS, then migrate the data from mainframe to AWS, as well as reimagine the mainframe application and the business processes, which was manual. You can bring in Amazon Transform as well as Kiro together to work together to help you get there. So that's how you can accelerate your reimagining the application. I'll take you through another use case in financial services industry. Again, we can use Amazon Transform and Kiro together to solve that use case as well. The use case that you see here is a very typical, extract, transform, load workloads that currently run on mainframe. So feeds from various sources would get into mainframe, and then there would be batch jobs which will process those feeds and update the databases on mainframe. That's step number 2. In step number 3, once the batch jobs run and update the DB2, it will also produce some extract files which will be then fed to data warehouse. And step number 4 is where you generate metrics and data visualization from data warehouse. So that's a typical workflow of an ETL, which has mainframe in the mix. And you can actually, the next slide will show you a modernized architecture of this workflow. So the various feeds from various sources, which came from mainframe, which was initially put to mainframe. Right now, it can, in the target architecture, it is being put to AWS. Once the feeds are in AWS, the part which was running the batch job in mainframe using COBOL JCL, this part is now modernized into AWS using any of the three patterns, or there can be other patterns as well, but more commonly is what I'm seeing these three patterns. One is where um, the business logic from mainframe is being extracted, and that is being implemented into a workflow ETL tool like Informatica or so on. The second pattern is where the mainframe COBOL code is being converted to Java application, either using the refactor methodology I explained earlier or reimagining it manually. And the third pattern is where the COBOL code is converted to Python scripts. There are tools available with our AWS ProServe team, which can help you in converting those COBOLs to Python scripts. Now, with Amazon Transform and Kiro, you can use it to accelerate the whole process. How? For the pattern one, you can use it to use the business rules extraction, where you don't need to do anything manually, but it will give you the whole business rules that's being processed by this COBOL batch jobs. Now, essentially, these batch jobs are pretty simple. It's more like an ETL batch job moving fields from one to the other. There would be minimum business logic involved there. So, understanding the business logic from those applications through Amazon Transform business flows is pretty simple. Similarly, even converting those applications either using refactor pattern through an automated conversion, which is done by ATX, or in combination with ATX and Kiro, reimagining it, developing a whole new Java code, is also something which can be pursued. Once the batch jobs are converted to any one of the patterns that I discussed, the following process is about moving it to a data warehouse like S3, where you can have your Lambda functions, you can have step functions, glue jobs to move it to S3 bucket or a data lake. And from there, you can have the consumption layer, consume the data, and generate quick site dashboards or generate insights from it. So those were the two patterns I wanted to cover during the session today. Gina, back to you.
Yep, awesome. A quick question on the last slide from one of the audience members. Like, what happens after the analytics layer is done? Like, is there any way they can outsource that data any further, or that's the end step that you normally see in a typical pipeline?
Um, yeah, so you know what? In that pipeline, after you have the consumption layer, the data is always stored in the data lake, so you can use it
Hmm.
in n number of ways that you want to. The consumption layer that I had in my slide is just an example of various ways the data is being used. So you can definitely use it further as well.
Got it. Got it. Awesome. And we have one more question. Like, are there any like challenges or gotchas that you have normally seen when customers try to adopt this?
Yeah, sure. So, frankly speaking, this many of the methodology that I showed you is is being there in the industry for some time. Like CQRS pattern
Hmm.
has been there even when mainframe was being developed, but or mainframe applications has been developed. But most of the time, when you go for those patterns, understanding what is your command business process, what is your read-only business process is the challenging part of it. That's the first challenge that needs to be overcome. And for that, you can use Amazon Transform, which might be able to help you in understanding it in much quicker fashion than what was being done earlier. Before we had tools and GenAI, it was difficult to get through the COBOL code, which has been written for generations, and then with so much of tight coupling in there. But GenAI has really helped in accelerating that part of the whole process of migrating the applications. Now, The second part of it is where Hero comes in, which is the spec-driven development. We are working with many customers and co-innovating with them to fully streamline this process, but it's in works as we speak. Yeah.
Yep. Awesome. Thank you so much. I know we went through like a lot of content. Uh, are there any, especially for people who want to adopt this as quickly as possible? Are there any key takeaways that they should take it forward from today's session? Maybe Cheryl, I'll hand it over to you for that.
Sure. Yeah. So the first thing I did just want to come back to one thing. I went back and checked some of my jobs I had. I processed 200,000 lines of code in under 8 hours. So to answer that previous question, that
Yep.
was something I did with a customer code. The second piece I did want to add, what I like about Kiro is how it takes, following that spec-driven development, it helps break down the complex task of re-engineering into different tasks. You have steps along the way that you can interject and change what you wanted to do, but it really breaks that workload down into individual steps. Once you get it down into the steps involved, that's how you get successful as you reimagine. But the key takeaways I'd love for the people watching to know, ATX has done the hard work of understanding the legacy applications and helps present it to all sorts of different people in an easy to read and easy to digest format. Take that, find your business pain points, and just start small. Yeah, find a business pain point, solve their one use case. Maybe it's a read only, maybe it's an ETL job. Take that and start to experiment. It is easy to get started. It is through the console. And if you get stuck, reach out to AWS. We can share some resources after at the end of the webinar. So you have some resources. But yeah, if you get stuck, reach out. We're here to help.
Awesome. And you can also reach out to Cheryl and Chiranjeev. I'm
Mhm.
gonna post their LinkedIn here as well. So if you want to directly reach out, feel free. Awesome. I know we are almost at time, but I do want to talk about what's coming next. I'm pretty sure that everyone must be excited about reInvent, our biggest AWS conference. And I'm so excited to share that both Cheryl and Chiranjeev are going to be on site on the conference as well. And they have two amazing sessions that they are going to be leading. I'm going to just post those links into the comment section, but I'll also post it here in the banner so you can take a note. The first one is Cobol to Cloud, Accelerated Refactoring with AWS Transform Agentic AI. Really exciting. And then we have From vSAM to DynamoDB, Reimagining Mainframe Data for the Cloud. So make sure if you're attending the reInvent conference, make sure you attend those sessions as well. And other than that, we also have a curated list of all mainframe related sessions. So do check that out as well.
And a booth.
Um,
Sorry, we have a
yes,
mainstream specific booth too. So if anyone's there, stop by. Chiranjeev or I might be there.
awesome. That's perfect. All right. I guess yeah, we are at time. So before we let everyone go, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for showing us a really interactive demonstration and helping us answer all the questions from the audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hope everyone to see you again. See you.